732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370 WOCA.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Memorial Day. We've got something to tell you about women who changed the face of the military and served all of us in the process. The song right there, I'm sure you know, is Fanfare for the Common Man. And right now we're celebrating the common woman. The uncommon woman. See, I don't think it's a slur. I think the word common is a nice thing to say about somebody because it means that an ordinary person did something extraordinary.
Yes.
Extraordinary. These women certainly are among them. The first one is a name you know, Joan of Arc.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I do have plenty of American women, but let me just start with Joan of Arc from France. She, of course, wanted to help out and was a woman and couldn't, so she became a man. You know that story, right?
Yes.
During the Hundred Years' War, Joan of Arc helped lead the French army to many victories. She had to adapt to the life of being a man. She cut her hair. She wore men's clothing. Mm-hmm. And while many didn't believe in her divine guidance that was calling her to help the French become victorious and gain their homeland from the British, she was, in fact, able to succeed. She was sent to the siege at Orleans by King Charles VII and was able to end the siege in just 9 days.
Isn't that amazing?
But not until she was able to convince and overcome the arrogance of longtime generals. Mm-hmm. Joan van Arc was highly successful in the beginning, winning several different battles against the Burgundians, and even able to go to Chinon and speak with the king. However, she was captured on May 30th of 1430.
Oh, gosh.
1430, and was sent to prison in Rouen, France, where she was tried and convicted of heresy. In the end, she was sentenced to death by burning at the stake. I know you know that. However, in June of 1456, Joan was given a posthumous trial in which she was found not guilty. A lot of good that does.
Yeah, of course. She's already dead.
And was even considered a martyr and was canonized. Today, she is a saint, a heroine, and has been given the name Maid of Orleans.
Yeah.
Maid of Orleans, however you want to pronounce it.
No, she had a mission, and she did it with a lot of passion and dedication for the betterment of others.
Women who changed the face of the military. So you could say that back in 1430, when Joan van Arc did what she did, mm-hmm. It changed the way we as people think of women in the military. I'm still uncomfortable with the idea of women on the front lines. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
I prefer they not be there. I prefer they are, still, nurses or doctors or that type of thing. But to go into the battlefield, with the guns and stuff, I know they're sharpshooters and they're really good, but it's just...
See, it's
more awful when they're captured.
So somebody's going to say this is foolish, but and maybe it is. However, I think while I believe they can do it, they can be there, they can do it, and I'm not bringing up anything about the men are going to be distracted or anything like that. That's not where I'm going with this.
No.
Where I'm going with this is the whole notion of women and children first when a ship is sinking. Mm-hmm. Do you know why that's supposed to be, from what I've heard, the reason they had that women and children first theory or philosophy?
Why is that?
Because a woman, you need lots of, like, let's say the world crashed. Let's say there was only like two people left.
Yeah.
One man and one woman. Well, the two of them would be responsible for repopulating the world, like Adam and Eve.
Right.
So let's say there were 10 women and one man.
Yeah.
See, all of a sudden, this guy, good day for him, but he can have 10 ladies that he's helping those 10 ladies repopulate the world.
Exactly.
But see, they can only do one baby at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, he can be making his rounds.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
So if you had one woman and 10 men, well, there's 9 unnecessary people.
That's right.
There's 9 unnecessary people. Right?
Exactly.
So that's why women first. Save the women, because you don't need many men. You need one woman.
Yeah. Yep. To have babies.
Have you ever heard that before?
I've not heard that.
That was the
before,
reason
but
for that?
This is a really, really good reason.
All right, the next woman who changed the face of the military is Elizabeth C. Newcomb.
Oh.
Now, did you ever hear of her?
No, I haven't.
She comes pretty close to a modern-day Joan of Arc.
Oh, okay.
In September of 1847, she made her way into the military at Fort Leavenworth in order to fight in the Mexican-American War.
Oh my gosh.
She needed to fit in, so she did just like Joan of Arc. She dressed like a man, cut her hair like a man. She was able to successfully battle against the Native Americans in Dodge City, although she was eventually exposed to be a woman 10 months later. 10 months.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Once she had that baby, they said, what's going on here?
There's no hiding it.
Anyway, it was made public that she was a woman, and she was quickly discharged and never allowed back into the military.
Well, maybe she got hurt, and then in the process of the doctors trying to patch her up, discovered.
Oh, he's really hurt, sir. He's really hurt. In July of 1848, Elizabeth Newcomb was able to receive some sort of thanks for her duties in the military through a private act of Congress approved on July 19th, 1848. Elizabeth Newcomb was able to receive a land warrant for 160 acres.
Oh.
They gave her 160 acres.
Oh, my gosh.
She was also given the pay equal to that of a soldier that was in battle for 10 months, with an additional 3 months of payment.
Oh, good for them. See
So
that?
we don't know much. History doesn't record much else that happened to her after that point. But there you go. So another woman who changed the face of the military.
Yeah.
The next one is Opha M. Johnson. Opha M. Johnson. This goes back to August 12th of 1918, when the Secretary of the Navy granted total authority for females to enroll for clerical duty in the Marine Corps Reserve. Johnson decided she wanted to do that. The very next day, her name was on the list.
Wow.
Throughout the whole duration of World War I, only 304 more women enlisted. So there were 305, Opha M. Johnson being the first one.
Gosh.
Most of the women were given jobs involving cooking, cleaning, becoming nurses, acting as secretaries. At the time, the women who enlisted were freeing a man to fight. That was the idea, free a man to fight.
Oh, okay.
Many of the women who took over these jobs allowed for more male soldiers to be sent to France. Opha M. Johnson, the first woman to enlist in the Marine Corps, was the first of the 18,000 women who enlisted in the Marines during World War II.
Gosh.
In fact, women made up about half of the personnel at various bases throughout the U.S., as most of the men enlisted were sent to the West Coast, well, to the
Yeah.
Pacific Theater, as they say.
So she didn't have to disguise herself then.
She did
actually
not. She was a
came in as
woman, and yeah, she was a woman and portrayed herself as a woman. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. I did a quick search on Google and sent over about 4 names to Robin's email. They may already be on your list, but I figured I'd
Okay.
send them over anyway.
Okay. I appreciate that, Jim. We'll take a look at them.
Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you, and I'll see if they're duplicated or not. The next one is Loretta Walsh. Loretta Walsh, another woman who changed the face of the military. Loretta was born in Pennsylvania, in the city of Philadelphia, April of 1896. She was the first woman in the United States to enlist in the Navy. By 1917, World War I had been going on for many years, and Germany had just announced plans to reuse unrestricted submarine warfare upon the Allies, including flying the American flag, which, caught us off guard because we thought, well, if you got an American flag, you're an American, but not
Yeah.
so. With this said, the German U-boats ruined 4 American ships, killing 15 people. Because of this, the U.S. merchant ships were then armed and told to attack any U-boats, if necessary. All of the action attracted Loretta Walsh to enlist in the Navy. On March 17th of 1917, she did exactly that. A few days later, the 18-year-old Loretta Walsh became the first female chief yeoman.
Wow.
Once armistice was declared, Walsh was put on inactive reserve but still carried out duties as a yeoman. Even though women had been serving in the Navy decades before Walsh ever did, she was the first to have identical pay and benefits as the men.
Oh, my gosh.
Those who enlisted before she did often worked as nurses and were treated as civilians and not military personnel, which is what stands her apart. Walsh stands as one of the first 13,000 women who would go on to enlist in the Navy. Today, she is a very important piece of female history as well as naval history.
Gosh, isn't that something?
The next lady I wanted to feature is Ovida Culp Hobby, Colonel Ovida Culp Hobby. She is the first woman to be awarded the U.S. Army Distinguished Service Medal. She received that in 1945.
Oh, gosh.
She was born in Killeen, Texas, and she attended Mary Hardin Baylor College for Women, as well as the University of Texas at Austin to achieve 2 separate degrees. She married William Hobby, who was an ex-governor of Texas, as well as the publisher of the Houston Post.
Oh, my gosh.
She was given the job as one of the newspaper's editors and often focused on the War Department's Women's Interest section. During the war, manpower was falling short, so Hobby decided to join the Women's Army Corps.
Oh, my gosh. Isn't that something?
These women were the first to wear uniform after the military nurses. She became a colonel and was soon awarded the Distinguished Service Medal, the first woman to ever receive that medal.
Well, good for her. Wow, she had
Ovida.
passion in her soul.
Colonel Ovida
Yeah.
Culp Hobby. She continued to be politically active after her time in the Army Corps. At the time, President Eisenhower elected her to be the president of the Federal Security Agency.
Oh, my gosh.
She later worked for several different government agencies. In time, she went back to working as an editor, and soon after taking care of her husband, who died in 1995, by the way. Hobby has so much more importance. There is a school in Texas named after her, as well as a quote of hers engraved in the World War II memorial located in Washington, D.C., which some vets went yesterday from the
honor flight.
Honor flight, thank you.
Yeah.
The quote that is on that monument says, quote, "Women who stepped up were measured as citizens of the nation, not as women. This was a people's war, and everyone was in it."
Oh, I love that quote because it's true. It just gave me chills. It's true. It's a people's
The next
war.
woman who changed the face of the military is Elsie S. Ott, O-T-T.
Okay.
Lieutenant Elsie S. Ott. Like many others, she was a nurse. She was a specialized flight nurse. What makes her so important is the fact that she took part in the first intercontinental air evacuation flight in January of 1943.
Oh, my gosh.
The most surprising fact is that Ott had no sort of formal training in air evacuation and had never flown in an airplane before. She was stationed at the 159th Station Hospital at Karachi on January 26, 1943. She was told to prepare herself for the daunting task of taking care of 5 patients while in flight. She did not let this new unknown task allow for failure. She didn't show her fear. For 6 days, she took care of each of the patients until the plane arrived in Washington, D.C.
Oh, my gosh. Good for her. Good for her. She knew what to do instinctively.
By ship or some other transportation, it would have taken months. Despite having to complete an unfamiliar task without any type of training, Ott succeeded and was rewarded for her great efforts. She was given the first air medal that was ever presented to a female, and she was also given the opportunity to undergo formal flight nurse training. Not only did she properly take care of each patient, she paid money out of her own pocket to pay for their meals. And even found the time to write very detailed suggestions for flying patients from one place to another.
Good for her. That's wonderful. Well, she was already trained as a nurse, passion. So
Yeah.
she just, instead of being on the ground, she was in the air there. She probably did the same thing. That's amazing.
Some of her recommendations in the writing included having readily available oxygen on airplanes, as well as a small first aid kit, and Ott even suggested a change in uniform for nurses, as a skirt was not very practical.
No. Yeah, you got those drafts up there, I'm sure. She's the original Marilyn Monroe, right? Boom.
Although it's possible that those guys survived because of that skirt.
Oh, that's right.
I got a reason to live, baby.
That's right.
All right, the next lady who changed the face of the military is Cordelia E. Cook. She's one of the many medically inclined women on the list. Cordelia E. Cook served as an Army Nurse Corps during World War II. Mm-hmm. Stands out as the first woman to receive 2 awards for her action during the war: the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart.
Wow.
Cook was stationed in Italy and was able to successfully perform her duties as a nurse during time of tough battles and swarms of wounded and dying soldiers.
Horrible, horrible circumstances, horrible area to be in, but boy, she did it.
In 1943, First Lieutenant Cordelia E. Cook was awarded the Bronze Star, making her the first woman to ever receive such an award. Soon after, she was also given the Purple Heart, kind of redundant there a little bit, making her the first woman in history to ever receive 2 very honorable awards for her time and efforts during World War II.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the names Jim sent and see if we've got it here or not. It's just a second. I got 3 more on my list.
Yeah.
Margaret Corbin is the next lady on my list. She fought in the American Revolutionary War. Despite the status of women during her time, she was born in 1751. She lived the life of a normal woman of that era until she married John Corbin in 1772.
Oh.
They both fought alongside the hundreds of men battling against the British troops, most notably at Fort Washington in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. You don't think of that as a war zone, but it was.
Not at all. Fort Washington.
Though John was enlisted in the 1st Company of Pennsylvania Artillery, Margaret was not. But she was known as a camp follower, which was highly common for those who had husbands in the military. Her main role was to cook, clean, and provide for the soldiers, basically a housewife away from home.
Oh, my God.
Once her husband and others were put into battle, Margaret went as well. She helped alongside her husband in firing the cannon until he was injured and died.
Oh, gee.
She was able to successfully take over the job of firing the cannon. Margaret did not come out unharmed. She was hit in the jaw, chest, and arm and eventually had to surrender due to her injuries.
Oh.
She then moved to Philadelphia in 1779 and was granted money, the amount equaling to the pay of a soldier in battle for half a month. Mm-hmm. Gee, not much.
No.
With this, she became the first woman to ever receive a pension. She is also the first and only Revolutionary soldier to be buried at West Point Cemetery.
Oh, my gosh.
First and only Revolutionary soldier.
Wow.
The first and only Revolutionary soldier. Okay.
Yeah, to be buried at West Point.
I wonder if that means female soldier. Or maybe just, of all this, she's the very first one?
Just the very first one.
Well, that's how it reads.
The only one.
Sounds like it would be the very first one, period.
So she's the only soldier from the Revolutionary War that's buried at West Point.
First and only, yeah. The next one is Annie G. Fox. Annie G. Fox was born on August 4th of 1893. Mm-hmm. She was the first woman in the military to receive a Purple Heart for her courageous and outstanding performance in the Army Nurse Corps.
Gosh.
Although the award was canceled due to a change in requirements.
Oh, gee.
Most notably the fact that to be given the Purple Heart, you have to be injured. She was still given the Bronze Star, which is almost always given for an act of bravery. Mm-hmm. Annie G. Fox played a role in helping U.S. soldiers during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Fox was the first lieutenant and chief nurse of Hickam Field in Oahu. Mm-hmm. As a nurse, she was trained to take care of the injured and the dying, but it is said that she bravely continued her job even while extremely heavy bombardments were taking place.
Gosh.
She was able to properly administer anesthesia and was able to teach the civilian volunteer nurses how to properly dress wounds. Fox was definitely calm under pressure and completed very meritorious acts for which she was given the Purple Heart. During World War II, about 964,409 Purple Hearts were awarded. Today, there is an estimated number of 287 Purple Hearts that have been given to women in the armed forces. And she's one of them. Annie G. Fox.
And that's one of the keys to stay calm so you can help others.
Yeah, and the last name I have on the list of women who changed the face of the military is Mary E. Walker.
Okay.
From Oswego, New York. Mary Walker stands as the first and only woman in the entire military force to have ever received the Congressional Medal of Honor for her actions and duties during the Civil War.
Oh, my God.
While she didn't start off in the military, Mary Walker was known for pushing for women's rights as well as dress reform. Before the Civil War broke out, Walker was the only female in her class to graduate with a medical degree from Syracuse Medical College. Soon after getting her degree, the war broke out, and Walker volunteered to join the Army as a medical officer, but was told no.
Oh.
Cannot do it.
Yeah, those hoop skirts would get in the way.
Discriminated against because she was a woman, but she pushed on anyway, became the assistant surgeon in the Army of the Cumberland in 1863.
Oh, good for her.
During this time, she was able to modify an officer's uniform in order to properly travel alongside with soldiers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
You can't travel in a skirt. I mean, a hoop skirt. It just doesn't work. You got to have pants.
She was then made assistant surgeon to the 52nd Ohio Infantry, was captured in 1864 by the Confederates, and then released 4 months later. She then worked in Tennessee at a women's and orphan asylum.
Oh.
On November 11th, 1865, she was awarded the Medal of Honor. It was taken away in 1917.
Oh.
After she didn't match up to the set of standards at the time, but reinstated posthumously in 1977.
Oh, gee. I'm glad somebody was keeping an eye on
People
that
do
stuff.
things, they get awarded for them, and then they take it away.
Yeah,
so there you go. Now, I know that Jim Panna said he sent us the names of some women who perhaps fit into this list, but there's no way for you to check your email while we're on the air. So, so we'll have to bring them up later if any of those names are different than the ones we just mentioned. Anyways, there you go. On this Memorial Day, it's important. You know, the people who gave their lives and sacrificed so much so that we could be free to talk and to print articles and to gather and to all the other freedoms that we have. It was men and women. It wasn't always only men. And it was men and women of all color, too. It's fair to say. It's important to say.
Sure.
You know, a lot of the movies sometimes make it look like the only people fighting were white men. But the truth is there were women. There were men and women of color and all religions, too, by the way.
Exactly.
Throughout time.
You know, we've heard of Joan of Arc, but I've not heard of all of the other women, and the other women are just as viable as Joan of Arc is.
Yeah.
They truly are for everything that they've contributed. And it doesn't matter what color a person is, they all fight for the common good to help others stay free.
Well said. All right, let's push forward, and now it's up to Matt's time, right?
Yes.
All right, Matt Gibbs will be in here next to answer our questions about our cars. He is live today. I wasn't sure.
Yep.
But he's waiting in the cloud room.
In the cloud room, he's there.
In the cloud room.
Yes, he is.
And we'll do that in just a bit. This is The Source, WOCA.
The Ocala Stampede begins their quest to retain their back-to-back Southeast Division Championship title starting this May. The Ocala Stampede is a member of the Premier Development League, the top developmental men's soccer league in North America. The Stampede invites you to come follow the herd at our first regular season home game on June 5th at 7 p.m. at Trinity Catholic High School. Individual and season ticket packages are available for purchase by calling 352-804-0132 or by visiting OcalaStampede.com. The Ocala Stampede, your town, your team.
Coming August 8th and 9th, the first annual Ocala Bike Fest. How would you like a chance to win a 2014 Harley Street Glide? How about a 2014 Indian Chief Vintage? The tickets are only $100 each, and each chance drawing has only 599 tickets. Now that is some great odds. All proceeds go to ARC. Questions, call 387-2210. The number again is 387-2210. Ocala Bike Fest. We'll see you there.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. On this Memorial Day, President Obama honoring the men and women who died for our freedom.
The president will head to Arlington National Cemetery, where he'll lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns and speak during a remembrance ceremony. Over the weekend, the president made a surprise visit to troops in Afghanistan. He spoke with troops